Now you want to start learning programming or web application development or web design, or just want to have fun with understanding how all of these works. I'm going to take you through the process. To start with, we're going to look at HTML and CSS. But then, what is HTML? It is up to you to go online and search what HTML is all about. I'm going to leave you with this particular URL, w3schools.com. It's a great resource page on the internet. If you need to know anything about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, a lot of programming languages, it's going to take you through. And some of our tutorials is going to be based on this, and we're going to have a broad knowledge of how all of this work and how you can bring them together to build your own defined website or web applications or even mobile apps in the long run. So HTML, in my own explanation, it's basically like the skeleton of the body. So just take a look at this picture. We have this skeleton, and it's actually not very appealing, and nobody wants to have it dealing with this. So if you have an HTML page, just an HTML page, so it's going to look like this, and it wouldn't be appealing to the users of your application, but it is the bedrock. It is the foundation of whatever you're going to be building. So in this case, the sample of our HTML code is what we have on the screen. If you look at what we have on this right side of the page, we have this doc type HTML till the end of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all of this code, and I'm going to explain them within the very few minutes we have to understand HTML. Once I copy all of this, I'm going to create a file. And before creating a file, we need to understand what we mean by a text editor. Text editor is just a software installed on your computer where you can edit codes. You can either use Notepad, but in this era, it doesn't make any sense for you to use Notepad to code. Some people would also suggest using Notepad++. Yes, that's a very good one. If you can start with, it's good. But I would encourage you start with VScode. So you can just go online to download the software. Just type in VScode download on your Google search engine. Then you can see the download Visual Studio Code. So it's a very small file which you can download on your computer, and then you can open it. So if you open the VS Code, this is how it looks like. It allows you to edit codes within it, and it gives you some styling, and it tells you if you have some mistake along the line. So once you have the Visual Studio Code application installed on your computer, then you can start to type in whatever you want to type in. So in my case, I'm going to start with opening a new tab, which I will open with Ctrl New, which is Ctrl N. So we have that. Now the code I copied from W3 School, which is this code, I'm going to paste that code inside my Visual Studio editor. So for you to see this page, let me change my theme from black to white. Yeah, so I think this one is clearer. Now we have this code. All I'm going to do is just save this page, Control Save, which is Control S. I'm going to save it on my desktop in a new folder. I will call it hello world.html. Now the first point you need to note is that every HTML file is expected to end with .html. Just like when you're creating a PDF file, you know that it ends with .pdf. If you're creating a text document, it ends with .txt, or if it is Microsoft document, it ends with .docx or .doc and the likes. So if you're dealing with HTML file, so it has to end in .html. In some cases, it could also end with .htm without the L. But in the standard way, it is expected that all HTML files should end with .html. And that is what I have done now. Now I'm going to save this with .html hello world. I will save that. Now After that, I will go back to that folder to check that file. Opening the folder, we have hello world.html. If you look at what we have here, you can see that it already has the Chrome icon for me to open as a web page. Automatically saving your file as .html, the browser knows that it is an HTML file and it needs to render it the way you expect it to be rendered on the web. Now, clicking on it, you can see this is what we have based on that code. So now let me open it and let me explain what is happening within that page. Now, the first thing is anytime you write an HTML page, it should start with this, which is doctype HTML. It is a standard way for the latest version of HTML. There are so many versions that have come before, but now we're using doctype HTML. Go online and search and read more about the meaning of doctype HTML, but in short, it is implying that it is the latest version of HTML. Now you're going to start your code. Anytime you write HTML, it has to start with these two, the doctype HTML, then another block of HTML. So you have to open them with these two arrows. In my own case, I'll call them brackets. So we have this arrow opening tag. That is what we call them. And the last one will be an open tag, closing tag. So meaning that anytime you write an opening tag in HTML, it is advisable, it is encouraged to end them with their closing tag. Though not all tag has a closing tag, but most of them do have. So among them is what we have HTML. Anytime you open an HTML, you have to close it with the closing tag. The closing tag is usually in the form of the less than and then the forward slash. That then you write whatever you want to write in there and close it. So here we have the HTML, which is the opening tag here, and then we have the closing tag. HTML at the top of the page, then HTML at the bottom of the page. Now that means anything you want to write within it will be considered as an HTML language, HTML file, HTML icons, HTML everything. So in this case, we have HTML at the top, HTML at the bottom. So every other thing we need to write must land between these two HTML tags. Okay, so that has been explained. Every time you want to write HTML file, you need to start with these two, doctype HTML and HTML, then you need to end it with HTML. Okay, so the next thing that follows is the head. So the head is just like your head. When in the skeleton I showed you earlier, you have parts of the body, the head, the body, and by the way, the footer part, the downside, maybe your leg side. So in this case, whenever you define HTML file and you define the HTML tags, the next thing that follows the HTML is expected to be the head. So the head implies that what do you want in the brain of your HTML page. The brain will now include, for example, we need to identify what this page is meant for, and that is where we have the title. There are some other interesting things that could be added inside the head section. Let me just show you what VScode would do. If I open a new file and I just say doctype or HTML5, if I save this file like .html, and then I just tell this guy to give me HTML5 tag. Cool. So this is the structure. You can see that it starts with doctype HTML. Then we have the HTML. If you are building a web page for another language, you can put in the language code, but in this case it is English, and then it is always preferable to write your code in English. And then we have the head section. So the head section contains the title of the document of the page you are building. Then it also has some other metadata like the chassis, the name. This allows you to build things that has to do with responsiveness of the page. And you can read a lot about the head section of HTML page. Okay, now going back to the next section. Once you're done with the head, you can see we opened the head tag and we closed that with the head tag. So the next thing that follows the head is the body. So the body is the actual content of the page. So all of these would not be seen on the browser. If I open the browser again, and you can see that we have some stuff here in the head section, the title, HTML tutorial. But unfortunately, you can't find it on the page because it is in the head, just in the brain. Nobody sees what is in the brain. So it's not usually on the page. So if anything you want to have on the page would be within the body section of your HTML file. So we have these two in the body section, and that is why we have these two showing here. I should mention that the title section here that we have within the head is always shown at this section. You can see we have HTML tutorial here. So that is where that applies. But apart from that, anything you have within the body would show on the web application or website or on the screen. Now we should talk about some of the tags that are commonly used within HTML pages. The first one which we have on this screen is H1. H1 is just like heading. It tells you the size of the content that you want to put there. So there are as much as 5 H's in HTML: H1, H2, H3, H4, H5. I think there is also H6. So these will define the sizes of the font size of the content within it. So we have H1 closed by H1. So whatever you write within these two, this opening and closing tag, is going to give you a very big size depending on the size of the number of H you use. So we have H1 to define this for us. If I change the H1 to H3, just like this, and I save the page, so if I reload, you can see it has reduced the size automatically. Now we have up to H6 from H1. You define whatever you want. You also need to know that it's a block level tag, meaning that if you write anything after it, it's not going to show by the side. It's going to start on a new line. So whenever we have a block level tag, it means that it's going to stand alone on that line. So if I save this one and I reload this page, so we're going to see that it's going to start on a new line, meaning that H tag, it's always block level. Now that's done, then we have another tag which is known as the paragraph tag. Paragraph tag is just like normal paragraph, P tag. So we have P, and anything you put in within it, it's going to have the paragraph tag, meaning that's just a normal paragraph. Once you are done with this, if you write any other thing is going to start on a new line because you have defined that to be a paragraph. And then there is one more thing I need to show you before I conclude this part. We have another tag which we call the I tag, or in some cases you can say the EM tag. And we can see once you open the tag, you have to close the tag, and within the opening and closing tags, you can now type in I am emphasized. So in this case, if I save that page and reload, now you can see it's emphasized. So we have a lot of tags in HTML. Let me mention this, and this is for your own advantage. You do not need to memorize any of this. That is why there are a lot of resources online, of which I mentioned W3 Schools. If you need anything within HTML, you can always come back to the resource page and see if there is a tag to be used. Don't try to memorize all of these. For example, you want to say, what tag do we use for capitalization? What tag do we use for bold? What tag do we use for a lot of underlining? You don't need to memorize them. All you need to do is just go to Google, type in HTML, then what do you want to do? We want to bold, HTML bold tag. That is it. Then it's going to give you the necessary things you need to do. So it's telling you that once you put in B as the tag, then if I put in B inside this page, B tag, then I type in anything, this is bold, and I save my page, I reload it, which is this, you can see this is bold. So it's not that you have to memorize everything. If you're trying to memorize anything, you're going nowhere. See you other time.